That was wonderful. I think the reason why Sarah's getting emotional is the same reason why each of us are feeling those emotions, especially those of us who've taken any time indexing, like Sarah has. I know something a little bit about the numbers from what the ward did during our ward challenge, when the youth challenged the leaders, the adults. And Sarah just beat everybody. I mean, she just destroyed everybody in terms of number of indexing that was accomplished. So I thank you so much, Sarah, for that awesome, your wonderful testimony. I've been asked, so my name is Brother Alex Olivan. As well of when we focus on our family history. I shared a story to some of us in the ward last month, and Bishop asked me to share it again during a sacrament meeting, a Zoom sacrament meeting. So my apologies if you've heard this story already. It sure has been an incredible summer, this last summer. A really cool experience. So I want to share these again, but I want to share some additional learnings that I've felt after I've had this experience. Earlier this summer, beginning of the summer, I received a phone call from our very own Joe Gammon, my brother Gammon. And I've learned through previous experiences that when he calls, you got to answer it. He's a pretty spiritual guy. And Joe was calling me. It was late at night. And I'm so grateful I answered my phone call. He said he had been praying to know who he could specifically help in regards to family history. And the Spirit was whispering to him that I was one of the people that he needed to help. And I really felt the Spirit when he said that to me. And on that phone call, I put him on speakerphone and I said, let's do it right now. I pulled up my family tree through the Family Search app. And over the phone, I was telling Joe what I was seeing in my hand chart, my family tree. I was seeing everybody in the generations back. As I was looking at my fan chart, there was a name that was sticking out to me. Her name was glowing on this screen. It seemed, and it was my third great grandmother on my mother's side. My mom she's joined us this morning for our ward sacrament meetings, listening in. And I think I even saw my aunt Linda, on as well. My third great grandmother, Sarah J. Love. Her name, like I said, was just beaming. And I said that name to Joe, and he said, that's her. That's who we need to help. And so Joe and I spent this last summer journeying together in more ways than one, finding the family of Sarah J. Love. And we spent many hours poring over old records. Joe taught me a lot about how to do this, how to navigate census reports, and we were looking at birth and death certificates and marriage licenses and probate records of different kinds, and we were going in a lot of cool areas. And the entire time, we felt directed by Sarah J. Love. There were each of us, Joe and I, had moments in summer where we had significant experiences where we felt Sarah guiding us during this process. Early on, we had discovered something that we weren't expecting, that we were really excited about. And that was that Sarah had given birth to a daughter, Margaret, that hadn't been recorded anywhere. And we wanted to confirm this finding. And Joe and I put all of our efforts into verifying the existence of little Margaret. She had died at 9 months old, and she hadn't been recorded. And her headstone, we had found, was in this cemetery up in Gerald, Missouri, like 5 hours away from us, in a cemetery called Hickey McAllister Cemetery. McAllister was her great-grandfather. Sarah J. Love had married Sam McAllister. And this cemetery was on their homestead when they were married. This was the 1870s time period, 1860s, 1870s. Well, Joe and I, as part of our efforts this summer, we decided to go up to this cemetery, find it, to locate it, find it, do whatever we could to verify Sarah's daughter, Margaret. And I wish I could, I wasn't as, we're on Zoom, so I could have shared some pictures here in my last presentation. I shared a few pictures, but imagine Joe and I driving 5 hours away to this area. We were using GPS and Google Maps coordinates and trying to locate where this would be. And we tried a few homes, and after a bit of trial and error, we found the current owners of this land that this long forgotten cemetery was on. And we knocked on the door of this gal, Laverne Heck. She was a very old, elderly lady, and she was the current owner of the land. She warmed up to us after we told her what we were kind of doing, and then we met her son, who was kind of standoffish at first. He had said that people had come in the past to try to find this cemetery and look for their ancestor, and they had promised them that they'd clean up the cemetery and do things, and he was a little bit bitter that no one had kept that promise over the years. And Joe and I we're on this journey. We're meeting with this family, and we felt impressed not only to really find Sarah J. Love and her family, but to make an impact in this family's life that owns this land. So we promised Richard, her son, that we would care for this cemetery. We didn't know how we were going to keep that promise. We promised him. Well, he was only slightly convinced, but he did show us where on his property this cemetery was located. And Joe and I went there. We found it. This place was a small little cemetery, maybe 50 or so headstones. But when we got there, it was just decades worth of trees and brush and weeds, and it was in really bad condition. And we began crawling through the brush and the trees, and we realized pretty quickly that it was going to take a lot of time for us to find any headstone, let alone Margaret's headstone or Sarah's. And I'll never forget one of the many cool moments that we had as we were going through. We were like Indiana Jones in the search for the lost grave site. But Joe was ahead of me, and like 30 seconds into this craziness, he stops and he turns, and I'm looking at him, and he just says, "There's Margaret." I catch up to him, and I look, and it was almost like light was shining through this dense forest, and there was her headstone. That was a really, really cool moment. It was there waiting for us, ready for us. So we found Margaret's headstone. We confirmed many things as we uncovered that area. We had found Sarah's other children. We had found Sam's second wife, who had died early. Sarah had died at 30 years old, so she had died early. We couldn't find Sarah's headstone. We found all these great things, but we couldn't find Sarah's. But it was just a really cool day. Try to be quick with the rest of the story, but we just felt such a wonderful feeling of excitement, but also that there was much to do here. And on that first visit, Joe and I just were filled with the spirit of Elijah. I mean, it was just an incredible feeling. Similar, I loved how Sarah said, the 4 best days of her summer. We're while doing this index challenge. And the 4 best days of my summer have been the 4 times that we have gone up, Joe and I, to visit the cemetery. And in each one of those visits, we have had an abundance of support in ways that we just didn't anticipate. Friends have come up with us. Volunteer organizations from up in Missouri have joined in tens of large groups to come and help us clear out trees and brush weeds and clean up these headstones. Neighbors within the community have heard and have come, and we've had missionaries join us, and there have been wonderful missionary moments where people are now receiving the discussion from the missionary. But I'll quickly share a quick experience when we were doing this. On our second visit up there, we had hopes that we would find my 3rd great-grandmother's headstone. I really was hoping we'd find it. And we had cleared up that second visit. We had done so much work. We had a lot of help. Cleared up this whole graveyard cemetery. And it was near the close of the day. A lot of people had gone home. And I had this tool. I found myself alone out in the middle of the cemetery. And I had this tool that was there in the dirt, and you could use it to push into the dirt to try to hear the sound of any marble headstone that you may have missed, that may have been covered over decades. And so I grabbed it, and I just felt, man, one more look. I went over to this area of yucca bushes that had been cut down. And I thought maybe one last look in this little area. And on my 3rd little push into the ground, I heard the most beautiful sound in the world. This ding of metal against marble. And I just jumped down and just began digging and uncovering, and slowly but surely this thing was really, really dug deep. And slowly but surely there I was able to read Sarah J. Love, or Sarah J. McAllister, with the correct dates. And I just cried out. I mean, I just was overwhelmed. And Joe and some of our other group came over and helped me dig this headstone out. But I'll tell you, brothers and sisters, we know the temple's been closed, but it was absolutely a temple experience, a sacred temple experience, sacred ground. It was incredible. So, what I'd like to share, in addition to this incredible experience that's ongoing, and there's more work to be done, and I'm excited for this story. There are incredible promises made to us as we fall in love with family history. I say fall in love because Elder Bednar, in one of his promises, described it. When you do this work and fall in love with this work, these are some of the blessings that come. We become saviors in Mount Zion. We will feel peace within our families. to heal things that need to be healed. We'll have power against the intensifying influence of the adversary. We'll have more power to repent, to change, to learn. I love some of those promises. I know that the Lord blesses us in every aspect of our lives as we sacrifice our time. As Sarah sacrifices her weekend as a teenager about to jump into high school again when school starts. Like, I just love the aspect of us sacrificing our time and effort and the amazing promises that come. For me in particular, it's been a little bit of a tumultuous summer, yet I've felt which has been an incredible gift to me of the love and concern that God has. When we remember our family, one thing that stood out to me as Joe and I were going about this journey, I learned something that our family who had gone before are now dead. They love to hear their name spoken. I just love that. It makes them so real. We can feel them. We can feel the Spirit as we turn to family history work. And a wonderful way to help us prepare for the time when the temple's opening again and we can actively go and do temple work. I'm grateful for these things. I'm grateful for this really cool experience that I had. And I testify that each of us have experiences like what I've had and what Sarah, and they will increase testimony and draw us closer to the Savior. And I know that it is true. And I say these